Lyra Vance sat in the back row of the Interstellar Defense Academy's largest lecture hall, a place where hundreds of cadets trained to become the future protectors of humanity. Every day she chose the same seat, not because she liked it, but because it was the only place where people would not bump into her or forget she was already sitting. Most cadets spoke loudly, laughed, boasted about simulation victories, or argued over strategy. Lyra stayed silent, her notebook open, her eyes focused. Trying her best to learn in a place where no one saw her, the instructor walked into the room with a confident stride, and the cadets instantly straightened. He started asking questions, pointing at raised hands across the hall. Lyra lifted her hands slowly, waiting, hoping she might finally be called today. The instructor scanned the room, his gaze moving right past her. He pointed instead at the cadet beside her, who looked confused because he had not even raised his hand. This happened every day. Lyra lowered her hand quietly. She did not sigh, complain, or show hurt. She simply wrote down the answer in her notebook, even though she already knew it. She always knew the answer. She watched her classmates. Most of them believed they were the future heroes of the galaxy. Many came from important families. Some had personal tutors since childhood. Others had already completed off-world training missions. Lyra had none of that. She had only her quiet mind, her long nights of practice, and a determination that no one ever noticed. During lunch, Lyra walked alone along the edge of the academy courtyard. Cadets gathered in groups, exchanging stories and laughing. When she passed them, she heard someone whisper, "Who is she again?" Another shrugged and said, "No idea. Must be new or something." Lyra was not new. She had been in their class for 2 years. She went to the cafeteria and sat at an empty table in the corner. She liked corners. Corners were safe. No one sat with her, but she did not expect them to. She ate quietly and reviewed strategy diagrams on her tablet. She zoomed in, adjusted lines, analyzed patterns. While other cadets talked about weekend plans, she studied fleet formations and alien warfare reports. During the afternoon training session, the class moved to the simulation hall. A massive chamber with glowing platforms, holographic projectors, and AI instructors greeted them. This was where cadets tested their tactical skills. It was Lyra's favorite place, but also the place where she felt the most invisible. "Cadet teams are posted on the board," the AI voice announced. Lyra scanned the list. Her name was missing. Again, she waited until the group assignments ended. Finally, she approached the supervising officer. "Sir, I believe my name was not listed for assignment." He looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. "Ah, right. Must be a system error. Just observe today's session from the sidelines. We will fix it later." They never fixed it. Lyra stepped aside, watching as the teams entered their simulations. She studied each scenario carefully, mentally running through the strategies she would use. She whispered quiet predictions to herself, and every time, she was right. The cadets inside the simulation chambers made mistakes she already saw coming, but she kept her thoughts inside. When the session ended, the supervising officer glanced at her. "Sorry, Cadet Vance, we'll include you next time," said the same words every week. By evening, the academy grew quieter. Most cadets returned to their dorms or the recreational zone. Lyra, however, headed toward the unused wing of the simulation hall. It was an older section, untouched for years but still functioning. Few people even remembered it existed. That made it perfect for her. She pressed her ID card against the panel. The door opened with a soft hiss. The room was dim, filled with silent machines and flickering lights. The old tactical AI Oracle 7 powered on as she stepped inside. "Welcome back, Cadet Lyra Vance," Oracle 7 said in its gentle, calm voice. "Session parameters. Full tactical freedom," she replied softly. "Generate a scenario with increasing difficulty. No limits. Processing." The room lit up as a holographic battlefield formed around her massive alien fleets. Asteroid fields, complex terrain. It was the kind of simulation no beginner could handle. Yet Lyra had been training with such challenges for months. She stood in the center, calm and ready. "Begin," Oracle 7 said immediately. The enemy fleet moved with perfect coordination. Lyra studied the patterns. Her eyes narrowed as she noticed a slight rhythm in their formation shifts. Most cadets missed these tiny details, but Lyra caught them easily. She adjusted her squadron paths, issued silent commands, and altered defensive lines. Her hands moved quickly across the control interface. She anticipated the enemy's moves, staying several steps ahead. Threat detected, Oracle 7 warned. Lyra already knew. She altered her strategy again, swinging her fleet in a surprising arc no standard textbook suggested. Probability of enemy confusion, 91%. Oracle 7, confirmed. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. Minutes later, the simulation ended. Scenario complete, the AI said. Victory achieved. Lyra breathed out slowly. Next one, please. Increasing difficulty level, Oracle 7 replied. The room shifted again. This time the battlefield was larger, the enemy more unpredictable. Lyra did not hesitate. She analyzed every formation, every potential trap. Her mind worked faster than she could explain. She played the scenario like a complex puzzle, enjoying every piece falling into place. It took an hour, but she won. Agree, Oracle 7 said again. Your tactical efficiency continues to exceed expectations. Thank you, Lyra whispered. She always felt comfortable with Oracle 7. It never ignored her. It never forgot her name. It saw her work, her effort, her improvement. Would you like to review your performance logs? Oracle 7 asked. No, she replied. Just save them. All of them. Saved, the AI confirmed. Lyra shut down the simulation and sat on the floor, leaning against the cold metal wall. She stared at the ceiling, thinking. She wished someone at the academy cared about her training. She wished someone believed in her, but at the same time, she did not want attention. She wanted only one thing: skill. Real skill. Quiet skill. After a while, she stood and left the room. Oracle 7 powered down behind her. Outside, the academy hallways were empty. The lights were dimmed for night mode. Lyra walked slowly, her footsteps echoing softly. She imagined herself in a real battle one day, facing real enemies. Using everything she practiced in silence, she reached her dorm. A small room with a simple bed, a desk, and a window showing the distant stars. She sat by the window, watching the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, real battles were happening. Somewhere out there. Humanity needed people who could think differently. But no one at the academy knew what she could do. She was invisible in class, forgotten in training, overlooked everywhere. Yet as she sat alone under the glow of distant stars, Lyra knew something very few people understood. She was preparing herself for something greater. And when the time came, she would not need attention or praise. The battlefield would see her, even if her classmates never did. Lyra closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she would raise her hand again. She knew they would ignore her. And tomorrow night, she would come back to the quiet simulation hall and practice again, because she was not training for her classmates. She was training for the galaxy. And one day, the galaxy would learn her name. The next morning at the Interstellar Defense Academy began like any other. Cadets rushed through hallways, carrying datapads and equipment, talking loudly about their schedules. The air buzzed with excitement as news of enemy activity along distant borders spread through the academy. Many cadets felt proud, believing they would soon be needed in real missions. Lyra Vance walked quietly among them, noticed as always. She entered the main lecture hall and took her usual seat in the back row. She opened her notebook, ready to learn, even though she knew the instructor would forget she existed. She looked at the other cadets. Many of them seemed confident to confident sometimes. They trained hard, yes, but they relied on family reputation or past achievements. Lyra had nothing like that. All she had was discipline. The instructor entered with a serious expression. Today, he announced, we will study the latest movements of the Vor Dominion. The room fell silent. Even the laziest cadets leaned forward. The Vor Dominion was a dangerous alien empire, far ahead in predictive warfare. Humans had been trying to understand their attack patterns for years, but had little success. Lyra paid close attention as the instructor explained the recent border incidents. He displayed holograms of fleet positions, supply lines, and destroyed outposts. Some cadets gasped. Lyra, however, felt something else: curiosity. She studied every angle, every shift in formation, every small detail. Then the instructor asked, "What do you think the Vor are trying to test with these early strikes?" Dozens of hands shot up. Lyra also raised her hand. Her eyes followed the instructor, hoping he would look at her. He didn't. He pointed to a loud, confident cadet in the front row whose hand wasn't even raised. The cadet gave a simple answer, one that Lyra knew was incomplete. But the instructor nodded anyway. Lyra wrote her own answer in her notebook, adding careful notes, predicting future Vor movements based on the hologram data. If the instructor asked her, she could explain everything clearly. She could show them how the Vor were slowly mapping out human response speed, communication gaps, and defense weaknesses. But no one asked. After class, the cadets exited in groups, discussing their theories. Lyra walked alone, holding her notebook close. She felt the weight of being unseen, but she did not let it discourage her. She had learned to accept silence as her companion. When lunch arrived, she chose her usual corner seat in the cafeteria. She ate quietly while reviewing data on her tablet. She was so focused that she didn't notice the shadow standing near her table until someone cleared their throat. She looked up. A girl from her class, Tana Rel, stood there holding a tray. Tana said awkwardly, "Can I sit here? Everywhere else is full." Lyra looked around. There were still several empty tables. Tana was lying, but Lyra didn't question it. "You can sit," she said softly. Tana sat down and stared at Lyra's tablet. "You take a lot of notes," she said. "Yes," Lyra replied. "You study too much." Lyra blinked. She wasn't sure if that was a complaint or a compliment. Tana tapped her tray nervously. "You're quiet." "People say you don't talk to anyone." Lyra shrugged. She didn't know what to say. After a long pause, Tana sighed. "Never mind. Forget I said anything." She finished eating quickly and left. Lyra stared at her tray, unsure what just happened. She wondered if Tana tried to be friendly but lost courage. Lyra didn't blame her. People didn't know how to talk to someone they didn't notice. When afternoon training arrived, the cadets moved to the main simulation hall. This time, Lyra checked the assignment list again. Her name was missing again. She approached the supervising officer. "Sir, my name is not listed," gave the same answer as always. "System error." "Just observed today." Lyra nodded and stepped aside. She watched the others enter their simulations. Large holographic chambers activated one by one as cadets prepared to test their skills. Some were excited. Others were nervous. Lyra observed everything carefully. She watched how teams communicated, how they reacted to threats, and how they made tactical decisions. She noticed their mistakes long before they did. She silently predicted outcomes, and every prediction came true. The supervising officer didn't look at her again. After the session ended, the officer dismissed the cadets. Lyra stayed behind for a moment, watching the room grow quieter. She wondered what would happen if she simply stopped showing up. Would anyone even notice she was gone? That evening, as the sun set over the Academy's glass towers, Lyra walked to the old simulation wing again. She entered the dim, silent room. The familiar sound of Oracle 7 activating greeted her. "Good evening, Cadet Lyra," Vance, Oracle 7 said. "Simulation requests." "Same as always," she replied. "Full tactical freedom. Start with a medium scenario and increase difficulty." Processing. Scenario ready. The battlefield formed around her, filled with asteroid belts and unknown alien fleets. Lyra stood still for a moment, studying everything. Then she moved into action. Her hands glided over the controls. Her eyes tracked every enemy formation. She identified weak points quickly and adjusted. Her fleet's route to use the environment to her advantage. Enemy shift detected. Oracle 7 announced. "I know," Lyra whispered. A trap appeared on the left flank. Lyra responded instantly, redirecting her ships before the enemy could close in. The holographic environment glowed with movement and chaos. But Lyra's mind stayed calm. She won. Scenario complete, Oracle 7 said. Victory achieved. Lyra breathed deeply. Next one. The AI increased the difficulty. More enemies. Faster patterns. Smarter responses, but Lyra matched them all. She worked for hours. She lost track of time as she fought scenario after scenario. Her mind focused completely, like a musician playing a perfect melody. At one point, Oracle 7 spoke in a softer tone. Cadet Lyra Vance, your tactical performance has reached advanced levels. You are functioning far above your current rank. Lyra didn't know what to say. She wasn't used to hearing praise. I'm just practicing, she said quietly. Your practice exceeds expected limits, Oracle 7 replied. Would you like me to submit your results to the Academy Command? Lyra froze. No one had ever asked her that. No one had ever offered to show her work to anyone. She thought about the instructor who never called her name, the students who didn't know she existed, the officers who forgot to add her to assignments. If her results were submitted, people might finally notice her, but the idea scared her. She took a long breath. Not yet, she said. Please keep saving them. But don't send anything. Understood. Oracle 7 said. Lyra finished one final simulation before shutting everything down. She left the room quietly, but Oracle 7 kept her logs open. It analyzed her decision trees, her strategy maps, her reaction times. Not yet, Oracle 7 repeated to itself. But soon, as Lyra entered her dorm, she felt tired but strangely uncertain. She sat on her bed and looked at her hands. They were small and soft, not like the hands of her classmates who lifted weights or trained in combat drills. But those hands had guided thousands of simulated ships through impossible battles. She lay down and stared out the window at the dark sky filled with stars. She wondered what people would think if they knew she defeated fleets that even senior officers struggled against. She wondered what the Vor Dominion would think if they knew a quiet human cadet understood their patterns better than most military strategists. She closed her eyes. Somewhere out there, real threats were growing. The galaxy was changing, and Lyra felt something deep inside, something she couldn't explain. Her time was coming. Even if the Academy didn't see her, the battlefield would. It always saw the truth, and one day it would know her name. The next few days at the Interstellar Defense Academy passed quietly for most cadets, but not for Lyra Vance. She continued her routine, as always attending classes where no one called on her, sitting through simulations she was never assigned to, and training alone in the old simulation wing every night. She kept her world small, silent, and controlled. But even though she tried to stay invisible, something in the Academy was beginning to shift. Rumors spread through the halls. Strange whispers about the Vor Dominion's sudden increase in activity. Some cadets bragged about volunteering for border defense. Others pretended they weren't afraid. But Lyra noticed something different, an uneasiness in her instructors' voices, a nervous energy in the announcements, even a tension in the Academy's automated systems. Something was changing. One morning, Lyra walked into her strategy class and sensed the room felt heavier. The instructor stood near the holoboard, his face unusually pale. When the bell rang, he didn't start the lesson right away. He waited until the room was silent, then activated a hologram. A map of human territory appeared, glowing with dozens of red marks. These, he said in a low voice, are all border outposts attacked in the last 48 hours? Gasps filled the room. The instructor explained how the Vor Dominion had attacked with strange patterns, sometimes direct, sometimes unpredictable. Human intelligence struggled to understand their purpose. No one had answers. Lyra studied each red mark carefully. She felt her heart beat faster as she recognized certain patterns. To her, the attacks did not look random at all. During the explanation, the instructor asked, "What do you think the enemy is trying to achieve with these attacks?" Lyra raised her hand. No one looked at her. A student in the front row gave a quick guess. Something about territory expansion? The instructor nodded weakly. even though Lyra knew it was wrong. She knew these attacks were not about land or conquest. They were tests. Tests to measure human reaction speed. Tests to find communication weak points. And most importantly, tests to see how predictable human strategy was. Lyra's hand slowly lowered. After class, she walked out quietly, but something happened that she did not expect. Another instructor, Commander Soren, stood near the hall entrance. He watched the students leave, but when Lyra passed, his eyes paused on her for a moment longer than normal. It made her uncomfortable. People rarely looked directly at her. When she met his gaze, he gave a small nod, almost like he recognized her. But before she could understand it, he turned away to speak with another officer. Lyra walked on, confused. Later at lunch, she sat alone as usual. She ate slowly, thinking about the morning's lesson. She felt something rising inside her, an urge to speak, to tell someone her ideas, her theories, her predictions. But she knew no one would listen. She opened her notebook and wrote down everything she observed about the Vor attacks. Her handwriting was neat and calm, but her thoughts were intense. By the time she finished writing, her notebook page was full. That evening, Lyra went to the old simulation wing again. She felt at peace as the familiar hiss of the door welcomed her. Oracle 7 activated immediately. "Good evening, Cadet Lyra Vance," the AI said. "Simulation request." Lyra hesitated. For the first time, she felt the need to ask a different question. "Oracle 7, she said slowly. "Have you analyzed the recent VOR attacks?" "Yes," Oracle 7 replied. "I have reviewed all available data. The patterns remain unclear to most analysts." Lyra stepped closer. "I don't think they're unclear. I think they're testing something." "What do you believe they are testing?" the AI asked. Lyra explained her thoughts, how the attacks lined up with known communication delays, how they targeted supply chains, how they seemed to probe predictive models. Oracle 7 listened silently. When she finished, the AI responded. "Your analysis aligns with high-level military theories not yet shared with the Academy?" Lyra felt a jolt of surprise. "Then I'm right." "Your logic is consistent," Oracle 7 replied. "Your predictions are 98% accurate based on current data." She stared at the glowing consoles. For a moment, she felt a quiet pride. Not joy, just a calm awareness that her mind had seen something real. "Would you like me to run a simulation based on your analysis?" Oracle 7 asked. "Yes," Lyra said. "Make it difficult." The battlefield formed around her larger, more complex than anything she had faced before. Enemy fleets moved in unpredictable patterns, reacting faster than any she had fought. Lyra studied their movements. She recognized the tests. She recognized the mistakes. She moved her fleet in precise arcs that looked illogical but created perfect openings. Her heart raced. Her mind sharpened. For a moment, she forgot she was just a cadet. She forgot the Academy ignored her. She forgot she was invisible. Here, in this silent room, with only Oracle 7 watching, she was seen. The simulation grew harder. The enemy adjusted to her strategies. When they learned one of her patterns, she changed it. When they predicted her next move, she turned sharply in another direction. She worked faster. She thought deeper. She adapted like flowing water. Finally, after almost an hour, the simulation ended. "Scenario complete," Oracle 7 said. "You have defeated the advanced predictive formation." Lyra breathed heavily. How advanced was it? "It was based on real Vor fleet patterns," Oracle 7 replied. "Patterns that have defeated multiple human outposts." Lyra went silent. She thought of the red marks on the hologram. The destroyed outposts. The officers who couldn't understand the enemy, she had just defeated those patterns. "Oracle," she whispered, "how many people at the Academy can do that?" The AI responded without hesitation. "None." Lyra stared at the floor. She didn't feel proud. She felt something heavier, responsibility maybe, or fear. Before she could speak again, Oracle 7 continued, "Cadet Lyra Vance, may I ask a question?" She nodded. Double quotes. "Why do you allow yourself to remain unheard?" Lyra froze. No one had ever asked her something like that. She sat on the cold floor and hugged her knees. Because ... She searched for words. People don't want to hear me. They want confident voices, loud ideas, people who stand out. I'm not like that. I don't know how to make people listen. Your ability is exceptional, Oracle 7 said. It should not remain hidden.
Lyra
Felt her chest tighten. If people knew, everything would change. I don't want attention. But the galaxy may need you, Oracle 7 replied. Lyra looked up sharply. Need me? If these attacks continue, the AI said, humans will face a conflict unlike any before. Your understanding of the enemy could become essential. Lyra didn't speak. She sat there in silence, hearing only the gentle hum of the old machines. After a long time, she whispered, But no one here believes in me. Oracle 7 replied softly, I believe in you, and soon others will too. Lyra closed her eyes. The room felt strangely warm, as if the old AI's words had wrapped around her. But she also felt fear of stepping out of the shadows. Fear of being seen. When she finally stood, her legs felt heavy. Save the logs, she said quietly. Saved. Oracle 7 confirmed. Lyra walked out of the room. The hallway outside was dark and silent. Something inside her felt different. Not larger, not brighter, but awake as she headed to her dorm. She noticed Commander Soren again at the far end of the hallway. He was speaking with another officer, but when Lyra passed, he paused and looked at her again, not with confusion, not with curiosity, with recognition. Lyra quickly looked away and kept walking. Her heart beat faster. Why was he looking at her? Did he know something? Did he see her training logs? Did he know she used the old simulation wing? She entered her room and closed the door quietly. She leaned against it, breathing slowly. Outside, the academy continued its day. Students laughed, officers rushed, alarms sounded as new reports came in. Inside her room, Lyra sat by the window again, staring at the stars. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she could feel something coming, something that would pull her out of the shadows. Whether she wanted it or not, and the galaxy, still unaware of her existence, moved closer to a storm. Lyra didn't know yet. But soon, the battlefield would call for her, and it would not forget her name. The next day began with tension in the air. Tension thick enough that even the most carefree cadets felt it. The academy halls were louder, faster, filled with officers rushing through corridors and students whispering about something they did not understand. Lyra Vance walked among them quietly, her notebook held close, her steps steady and calm. But inside, her thoughts were racing. She had barely slept after the long conversation with Oracle 7. She kept thinking about the simulated battles, the enemy patterns, the officer who kept watching her, and the strange feeling that something in the academy was shifting toward her. She did not want attention. She did not want to stand out. But she could feel the world pushing her forward that morning. Lyra entered her strategy class and immediately noticed something unusual. There were two officers standing at the back of the room, watching the students. They wore dark command uniforms, higher rank than anyone usually assigned to the academy. The instructor seemed nervous. Settle down, he said quickly. We have guests from command today. The room fell silent. The officer in the front nodded to the instructor, who activated a large hologram. It showed new Vor. Attacks larger, bolder, more complex. Outposts falling, fleets disappearing, human defenses struggling to keep up. A murmur of fear passed through the cadets. One officer stepped forward. We are facing an enemy who thinks faster than we do, he said. Someone out there is helping them predict our every move. We need new minds, new strategies, new approaches. His gaze moved across the class. For a moment, Lyra thought he was looking at her, but then he looked away. Her heart calmed. She reminded herself that no one ever noticed her. The officer continued. Command has requested that the academy hold a full tactical evaluation by the end of the week. Every cadet will be tested. We need to find the most adaptable thinkers. Excited whispers rose from the class. Some students grinned confidently. Others looked nervous. Lyra felt a quiet dread. She knew her name would be left off the assignment list again. She knew she would be told to observe. She knew she would not be chosen. The instructor ended class early. As the cadets filed out, Lyra stayed behind to gather her things. She kept her eyes low. But before she could leave, one of the command officers stepped into her path. "Cadet Vance?" he said. Lyra froze. She slowly lifted her head. "Yes, sir." The officer looked at a datapad. "Report to Commander Soren's office at 1400 hours. Lyra blinked. "Me, yes," the officer said. "Do not be late." He walked away before she could ask anything. Lyra stood there, staring at the empty doorway. Her stomach tightened. Why would Commander Soren want to see her? Had she done something wrong? Had they found her simulation records? Had Oracle 7 revealed something? She walked out of the room, her mind spinning. At lunch, she sat in her corner again. But this time, she barely ate. She kept checking the time, her heartbeat rising with each passing minute. Her classmates were louder than usual, bragging about how the tactical evaluation would surely place them in advanced training. None of them looked at her at 1350. Lyra stood outside Commander Soren's office. She hesitated before pressing the door chime. "Enter," a deep voice said. She stepped inside. Commander Soren sat behind his desk, looking over several files. Another officer stood nearby, arms crossed. The room felt heavy, serious, filled with quiet power. Lyra swallowed. "Cadet Lyra Vance reporting, sir." Soren looked up slowly. His eyes held something unusual curiosity mixed with certainty. "Cadet Vance," he said. "Sit." She sat carefully, her hands folded in her lap. Soren tapped the screen in front of him. "I have been reviewing simulation records from an old facility in the east wing of the Academy. Records that should no longer be active." Lyra's heart dropped. "Oracle-7," he continued. "These records show a single user. A cadet who has defeated simulation after simulation at advanced and expert levels. Scenarios beyond standard curriculum. Strategies we have never taught here." The second officer stepped forward. "Do you know who this cadet is, Cadet Vance?" Lyra looked down. Her voice was small. "It's me." "Sir?" Silence filled the room. Commander Soren leaned back, studying her. "How long have you been training in that wing?" "Since my first year," Lyra whispered. "No one assigned me to simulations, so I practiced alone. And Oracle 7. Soren asked. "He helped me," she said softly. "He created harder scenarios. I asked him to save everything." Second officer muttered. "Unbelievable." Commander Soren pressed another file. A hologram appeared, showing one of her recent battles. The enemy fleet moved in impossible patterns, and Lyra's response was sharp, precise, perfect. "These patterns," Soren said, "match current Vor attacks." "You recognize them?" Lyra nodded. "I studied them." "How?" She hesitated. "They repeat certain rhythms. Small mistakes. Predictive loops. It's like they're testing something. I just followed the pattern." The room went silent again. Finally, Soren spoke, his voice firm. "Cadet Vance, command needs minds like yours. We are selecting a small group of cadets to participate in an emergency tactical review. You will join them." Lyra's eyes widened. "Sir, I've never been in an official simulation. They always leave me off the list." Soren raised a hand. "I know. That ends today." She stared at him, unsure how to breathe. He continued. "At 1600 hours, report to the Horizon's Edge briefing room. You will present your analysis to senior officers." Lyra nearly fell back in her chair. "Present. 2 senior officers? Me?" "Yes," Soren said. "They need to see what you can do, and they need to see it now." She shook her head slightly. "Sir, they won't take me seriously. I'm quiet. I'm not confident like the others. People forget my name. They don't listen to me." Soren leaned forward. His voice softened slightly. "Cadet Vance, the enemy does not care about confidence. They care about skill. And you have more of it than anyone here." Her breath caught. "You will go," Soren said. "That is an order." Lyra nodded weakly. Yes, sir. She stood slowly, feeling like her legs might give out. When she left the room, she walked down the hallway in a daze. The world around her felt distant, blurry. Officers passed by. Cadets laughed in groups. Lights glowed softly along the ceiling, but Lyra felt like everything had changed. She returned to her dorm and sat on her bed, hands trembling. She inhaled slowly, trying to calm the storm inside her. She looked out the window at the stars. Why now? Why her? Why had the galaxy decided to pull her out of the shadows? At 15:30, she stood in front of the mirror. Her uniform looked simple, unremarkable. She smoothed it carefully. She tied her hair back neatly. She practiced breathing until her chest felt steady. She walked to the shuttle bay. The horizon's edge was a sleek, dark gray cruiser, its surface glowing with soft blue lights. It looked powerful, prepared, ready for war. A shuttle carried her aboard. The moment she stepped inside, the air felt different, sharper, colder, more serious. Officers hurried through the halls. Tactical displays showed real-time fleet movements. A young officer led her to the briefing room when the doors opened. Lyra froze. Senior officers filled the room. Admirals, command strategists, fleet captains, all looking at glowing maps of war movements, all talking in low, tense voices. When she entered, the room grew silent. Commander Soren nodded to her from across the room. Cadet Lyra Vance, the strategist I told you about. Dozens of eyes turned to her. Lyra felt her throat close, but then she remembered something Oracle 7 once told her, I believe in you. She stepped forward. Her voice trembled at first, but she forced herself to speak. She pointed at the hologram. The Vor attacks are not random. They're testing predictive response curves. They're mapping our habits, and they're preparing for something bigger. The room stayed silent. An admiral asked, How do you know this? Lyra swallowed. Because I studied every pattern, and I simulated their next moves, and the one after that. She reached for the holodable. Her hand stopped shaking. She activated the display, and the room leaned in. For the first time in her life, people were listening. For the first time. She was not invisible, and the battlefield was calling her name. The room stayed silent after. Lyra finished her first sentence, and for a moment, she wondered if she had made a mistake. The senior officers watched her closely, their expressions unreadable. Some seemed confused, others curious, and a few doubtful. She felt their judgment pressing on her like a weight. She took a slow breath and continued, forcing her voice to remain steady. The Vor changed their attack routes 2 months ago. They began striking stations that seemed unimportant. But those were distractions. Small tests. They were watching how fast we responded, how predictable our movements were. She tapped the holodable. The display shifted, showing a map of recent attacks. Lines connected each point, forming a pattern only she seemed to understand. They are drawing us into a trap, Lyra said. A big one. The room filled with whispers. Commander Soren raised a hand, silencing everyone. Continue, Cadet. Lyra nodded. If they follow their pattern, their next strike will not be small. It will be a core attack on a major command hub. They're studying our delay times and calculating how long it takes for fleets to regroup. An admiral leaned forward. Which hub? Lyra hesitated. Her fingers shook slightly as she traced the path of the Vor attacks. The pattern converged on one location, Horizon's Edge, she said softly. The room went completely silent. A captain stood up sharply. That's impossible. This ship is heavily guarded. Lyra kept her eyes on the holomap. The Vor aren't planning to attack the ship from outside. They want to isolate it, surround it, cut off communications, and then they want to end command leadership in one strike. Murmurs rose again, louder this time. They've been testing how fast they can corner us, Lyra explained. If they succeed here, the rest of the human fleet will fall in chaos. It will be the perfect time for them to begin their full invasion. One of the admirals spoke. And what do you suggest we do? Lyra hesitated again. She felt the weight of every pair of eyes in the room. Her heart beat like a drum. She had never given orders before. She barely spoke in class. Yet here she was, standing in front of the leaders of humanity. She steadied her breath. "We set a trap of our own," she said. "We give them what they want, the chance to corner us. But we don't let them finish the trap. We break their pattern. We make a move they will not predict." The officers exchanged looks, and Admiral asked, "And what move would that be?" Lyra pointed at a cluster of small, dark points on the map. "These minor supply satellites. The Vor always ignore them. They believe we don't use them anymore. But if we hide a small strike group there, they won't notice." Soren nodded slowly. "A counter-ambush," Lyra continued, her voice growing stronger. "Yes, when they close in on Horizon's edge, they will leave themselves exposed from the rear. If we strike there with full power, we can break their encirclement and scatter them." Silence lingered. Finally, the highest-ranking admiral in the room stood up. "Cadet Lyra Vance," he said. "Are you absolutely certain about this pattern?" Lyra met his gaze. "Yes, sir." After a long moment, the admiral spoke again. "Then we prepare the counter-ambush." The room shifted instantly. Officers moved into action, sending orders, updating maps, coordinating fleets. The atmosphere transformed from tension to urgency. Lyra stood frozen, overwhelmed. Commander Soren approached her. "Walk with me." She followed him out of the room, her mind spinning. They entered a quieter hallway. "You did well," Soren said. Lyra shook her head. "Sir, I'm just a cadet." "I don't know if I deserve you do," he said firmly. "You saw what no one else could. You earned their respect today." Lyra looked down. "I'm still scared." "That means you understand the stakes," Soren replied. "Fear is not weakness. It means you care about the people you protect." She nodded slowly, then alarms blared. A bright red light flashed down the hallway. Soren's expression hardened. "They're here." Lyra's breath caught. "The Vor." "Yes," Soren said, already moving. "They didn't wait. They're attacking now." Officers rushed past them. Lyra ran after Soren, her heart pounding. They reached the command deck. The holoscreens showed red markers closing in around Horizon's edge. Lyra gasped. "It's the pattern. Exactly the same. They're moving faster than the simulations." Soren turned to the officers. "Get the strike group into position now." A lieutenant called out, "They're jamming communications. Switch to encrypted local channel." Another officer shouted. Lyra stepped toward the holotable instinctively. "They're trying to cut off our escape routes first. They'll send 2 flanks around the stern." You heard her. "Prepare rear defenses." The ship shook violently. Panels flickered. Officers held onto railings. Direct hit. Someone yelled. Lyra steadied herself and stared at the map. She felt something strange, like she had stepped inside one of Oracle 7's simulations. Everything moved exactly as she had seen before. Every pattern matched her memories. She whispered, "I know what they'll do next." Soren looked at her sharply. "What? They'll feint on our left," she said softly. "And then they'll strike on our right with everything they have," Soren shouted. "Shift shields to starboard. Prepare counterfire." The officers acted immediately. Seconds later, the Vor fleet attacked exactly where Lyra predicted. The shields held. Human ships fired back, pushing the enemy back. A captain turned to her, stunned. "How did you know?" Lyra didn't answer. She simply moved to the next part of the map. Minutes passed like hours. Explosions shook the ship again and again. Officers yelled orders, alarms screamed, and the battlefield burned across the screens. Finally, strike group reached their hidden positions, so ordered all units engage. Human ships burst from the shadows behind the Vor formation, firing with full force. The enemy fleet staggered. Their patterns collapsed. "It's working." Someone shouted. Lyra watched quietly, her hands gripping the edge of the table. The Vor tried to regroup, but their formation broke completely. Human ships chased them down, scattering them into fragments. Another explosion shook the deck, but this time it was the last. Silence followed. The red lights faded. A soft voice came over the speakers. "Enemy fleet retreating." We have one. The command deck erupted into cheers. Soren turned to Lyra. Cadet Vance. You saved us. Lyra looked at him, stunned. I only helped. No, he said. You led. You saw the threat before anyone else, and you guided us through the battle. Officers around her nodded respectfully. For the first time in her life, people did not overlook her. They saw her. Soren placed a hand on her shoulder. The battlefield knows your name now. Lyra felt tears in her eyes. Not sad tears. Not scared. Tears, just relief. She whispered softly, Oracle 7 was right. Ow. Soren raised an eyebrow. Oracle 7. She smiled a little. An old friend. The officers resumed their work, preparing for the next phase of the war. Lyra stepped away from the holotable and looked out the long window at the stars. They were quiet now, peaceful, but she knew peace would not last. She knew the war would return, and she knew she would be ready for the first time. She understood why the battlefield whispered her name in fear, because she was no longer the girl everyone ignored in class. She was Lyra Vance, and she would fight for humanity until the stars grew silent.